In the deep reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, an ancient authority held dominion, the Galactic Council. For centuries, they had reigned supreme, issuing decrees and deciding the fate of entire species. Seated in a monumental hall made from the shimmering blue crystals of a rare asteroid, the Council was both feared and revered across the stars. Known for their intelligence, they held the universe together, until one day, they made a decision that would forever alter the fate of Earth. Humans had long been on the Council's watch list. A species marked by their rapid technological advancements and, more worryingly, their boundless curiosity and unpredictable nature. To the Council, humans were a potential threat, a species that could someday challenge their authority. In a closed session, whispers spread among the Council members of a radical plan. They would unleash an ancient, predatory species upon Earth to test humanity, forcing them into submission or destruction. The Council's plan was simple: send a selection of fierce alien predators, creatures of nightmares sculpted in the harshest of environments, each one specifically designed for lethal efficiency. These predators were fast, intelligent, and voracious, an apex threat evolved for galactic hunting. Once these creatures were unleashed on Earth, the Council believed that humanity would be forced to abandon its ambitions, reduced to survival against a foe they couldn't hope to outmatch. Meanwhile, on Earth, one man was already awake, sleepless and lost in the neon haze of the city. They called him the Hitman, a myth wrapped in layers of truth and exaggeration. His real name was Sam Blackwell, a former elite operative who had become somewhat of an urban legend among government agencies and dark web forums. No one knew his exact whereabouts, only that he could be contacted through a network of cryptic signals. Governments, powerful organizations, even rogue states had once sought his services. When jobs crossed the line into territory where normal forces couldn't tread, they called upon the Hitman. Sam had grown up seeing humanity's darker side and had learned that the world was rarely as black and white as people liked to think. He was currently on his way to a safe house, hidden in the underbelly of a decrepit building complex, when a curious buzz emitted from his communicator. It was a message encrypted with multiple layers of security, marked urgent, in bold red text. This was not unusual for Sam. He was used to jobs coming in the dead of night. However, the sender's insignia made his eyes narrow in suspicion: the government. Sam Blackwell, a voice droned through his device, gritty and tired, yet resolute. "You're needed for an emergency. And no, it's not one of those petty diplomatic squabbles." Sam rolled his eyes, the faintest smirk touching his lips. "Yeah? What else is new?" The voice paused, allowing the gravity of the words to settle. "We're talking about an extraterrestrial threat. Predators, unleashed by the Galactic Council. They've decided Earth is due for a test." A hint of incredulity flickered across Sam's face, but he quickly masked it with the cool detachment he had mastered over years. Extraterrestrial threats weren't entirely new to him, but alien predators backed by a galactic authority. That was a different league. While Sam mulled over the situation, an ominous quiet had settled over one of the Earth's busiest cities. New York, normally buzzing with endless life and chaos, was oddly silent. That was when the first of the alien predators struck. Enormous, reptilian creatures with scales that reflected a metallic sheen began slinking through alleyways, their massive talons clicking against the pavement. Their eyes glowed in the dark, scanning the streets for prey. The attack was swift and ruthless. People screamed as one of the predators, moving with terrifying speed, pounced on an unsuspecting crowd, leaving chaos in its wake. Humans, unprepared for the onslaught, found themselves cornered in their own cities. Panic swept across the media as blurry images of creatures rampaging through urban centers surfaced, creating a collective shockwave of fear. Sam, hidden away in his safe house, reviewed the footage sent to him by government officials. The alien predators were vicious, but also highly coordinated. Each attack seemed part of a larger strategy, like pieces moving across a vast game board. He could see that humans were vastly outmatched, both in terms of speed and strength. This wasn't a conflict that could be solved with brute force. Taking a deep breath, he braced himself. "So, what's the plan here?" he asked, an edge of determination in his voice. The government official's voice returned. "The Council underestimated humans once. We're banking on them doing it again. You're being brought on board because you understand this world's darkest capabilities. We need someone willing to go beyond protocol. Sam nodded, his mind already running through the possibilities. All right. I need weaponry, vehicles, anything top grade that you can provide. I'll handle the rest. As he began gearing up, his mind wandered to the implications of the Council's actions. This wasn't just about survival, it was a battle to defend humanity's autonomy, its right to exist without the oversight of alien overlords. And if he could succeed, it might be a warning that Earth was no one's playground. While Sam prepared, the situation on the ground worsened. News broadcasts showed scenes of unrelenting horror, cities in ruins, government forces overwhelmed, and desperate civilians scrambling for shelter. The alien predators, it seemed, were capable of adapting to human defenses at an alarming rate. Bullets barely slowed them down, and heavy artillery only angered them. A scene unfolded on the screen in front of him, a mother clutching her child, both cowering beneath a collapsed structure as a towering, scaled beast prowled nearby. It was just a matter of time before humanity reached its breaking point. But Sam had a different plan. He wasn't going to face these creatures with traditional military tactics. His strategy was more unconventional, more ruthless. He understood these predators weren't familiar with Earth's unique blend of deception and guerrilla warfare, and he planned to exploit every weakness. As he loaded the last of his gear into his vehicle, he received one final message. Remember, Blackwell. Failure isn't an option. Humanity's future rests on your success. With a determined nod, he set off, ready to wage a war Earth had never seen before. And so, Earth's answer to the Council's challenge was on the move, an ordinary man, armed with an extraordinary will, prepared to do whatever it took to protect his world. The city lay in shambles, a haunting labyrinth of half-destroyed skyscrapers, twisted metal, and smoldering rubble. Smoke drifted through the air, carrying the acrid smell of burning debris and panic. Sam Blackwell navigated the wreckage with a hunter's precision, knowing he was being watched by something far more dangerous than anything he had ever faced before. Alien predators lurked in the shadows, scanning the area with keen, predatory instincts. Each step he took felt like a dance on the edge of a knife. From the few interactions he'd had with the government on his way into the city, he gathered that the military's efforts had been largely futile. Traditional weaponry barely scratched the surface, and the beasts had adapted too quickly to every defensive maneuver. These alien predators were evolving in real time, as if they were using humanity's tactics against them. The Council had picked the perfect candidates for Earth's downfall, creatures that grew stronger with each engagement, faster with each skirmish, and smarter with every encounter. Sam knew he couldn't rely on conventional methods to take them down. Brute force was out of the question, his solution would have to be cunning, resourceful, and, most of all, unpredictable. He moved through the darkened alleys with one purpose, to gather intel on the creature's behavior and search for vulnerabilities. Every instinct screamed for him to be cautious, one wrong move, one misstep, and he would be as dead as the soldiers who had tried to hold the line. The alien predators were unlike anything Sam had ever encountered. At first glance, they resembled large reptilian creatures, but upon closer observation, he noted traits that defied Earth's biology. They possessed translucent, exoskeletal plates that shifted colors to match their surroundings, granting them a terrifying camouflage. Their limbs were powerful, with clawed digits that could slice through steel like paper. But what concerned him most were their eyes, a glint of intelligence, a calculating gaze that seemed to assess him as he hid in the shadows. He witnessed one such predator methodically tearing through a small squad of armed soldiers. It didn't attack with the reckless abandon of an animal, rather, it watched them first, stalking in silence before singling out the weakest. Then, in a flash of movement, it sprang from the darkness, dispatching each soldier with a ruthless efficiency. The alien moved as though it had studied its prey and knew exactly where to strike. Watching this scene unfold, Sam whispered to himself, "This isn't just a hunt, it's a test." It became clear that the Galactic Council had done more than unleash simple predators, they had sent creatures designed to challenge humanity's very adaptability. As he considered this, an idea sparked in Sam's mind. If he could observe them long enough, he might learn their patterns and find a way to turn their intelligence against them. Hours passed, and Sam gathered vital information. He noticed that the creatures relied heavily on pheromones to communicate, leaving trails of scent that guided others to safe areas or, conversely, to places rich with prey. This network of pheromone markers seemed to be a way of organizing their attacks without traditional vocalizations or technology. Armed with this knowledge, Sam began to experiment. Using discarded clothes, pieces of concrete, and a few dabs of a unique chemical he had obtained from the black market, he mimicked the scent trails he'd observed, creating false markers. It was risky, and he knew he only had one chance to pull this off. His goal was to mislead the predators, to draw them into dead ends, confusion, and conflict. It didn't take long for his plan to bear fruit. As the predators entered the city square, they encountered his diversion. Two of them, massive and alert, paused in confusion. Sam watched from a distance, crouched behind a fallen pillar as the creatures circled each other, disoriented by the conflicting pheromone trails. A low growl escaped one of them, a guttural sound of frustration, and then, in an unexpected turn, one alien lunged at the other, mistaking it for a threat. In the chaos, Sam saw his opportunity. He moved with lethal precision, setting a series of explosives around the square's perimeter. He wasn't aiming to kill them directly, their exoskeletons would likely withstand the blast, but he could trap them, box them in and buy humanity some precious time. As he hit the detonator, the ground erupted in a fiery explosion, filling the area with a cloud of smoke and debris. The creatures roared, temporarily blinded and disoriented. Taking advantage of the smoke, Sam moved swiftly to lay more false trails, hoping to lead the creatures away from populated areas. His hope was to drive them toward a location he had scoped out earlier, a warehouse rigged with traps designed specifically for creatures of their size and strength. He knew this wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a start. The predators, however, weren't easily deterred. As Sam led them into the trap-laden warehouse, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The creatures were no longer stumbling into his tricks, they were actively avoiding them. Somehow, they had adapted again, recognizing the telltale signs of his traps and evading them with ease. Damn it, Sam muttered, realizing he was up against something far beyond human comprehension. These creatures were learning from him, outpacing him at every turn. With each failed trap, he could feel them getting closer, their claws scraping along the metal walls, their hissing breaths reverberating through the darkened corridors. He needed to switch tactics, and fast. Thinking quickly, Sam activated a small device on his wrist, a holographic map of the area, overlaid with every escape route and hidden passage he had scouted earlier. He was running out of options, but there was one last trick he could try. As the predators closed in, he maneuvered through the narrow spaces between shipping containers, using his knowledge of human architecture to keep a few steps ahead. The creatures, built for open hunts and ambushes, struggled slightly in the cramped industrial space. Sam's mind raced, searching for anything he could use to his advantage. Finally, he remembered a maintenance tunnel that ran beneath the building, a relic from a time when this warehouse had served as a military storage facility. It was narrow and reinforced with metal that might hold up, at least temporarily. He sprinted toward it, dropping makeshift explosive charges as he went. These weren't meant to injure the predators, rather, they were designed to create a wall of noise and confusion. As he ducked into the tunnel, he heard the creatures screech in frustration, momentarily thrown off by the sudden chaos. Once inside, he paused to catch his breath. His body ached, his muscles tense from the relentless pursuit. But there was no time to rest. He could hear the predators clawing at the tunnel entrance, their determination unyielding. He glanced down the dim corridor, knowing he had to keep moving. "All right, Blackwell," he muttered to himself, his voice a mixture of exhaustion and determination. Time for the next round. As he navigated the winding passage, Sam realized that he couldn't keep running forever. If he was to survive, he needed a more permanent solution. And then it hit him, a plan so audacious it bordered on madness, yet it was the only shot he had. He would lure the predators out of the city entirely, drawing them into an abandoned power plant on the outskirts. The plant had been decommissioned years ago but still contained enough radioactive material to potentially weaken the creatures. It was a long shot, but he suspected that the alien biology, for all its adaptability, wouldn't be immune to radiation. Reaching the end of the tunnel, Sam activated his communicator. "This is Blackwell. I need a diversion in Zone 6 of the city, something big and loud. If we're lucky, it'll draw the attention of every alien in the vicinity. The response was immediate. Are you insane? That's a heavily populated area. The casualties. Listen to me, Sam interrupted, his tone steely. If we don't act now, there won't be a city left. Get your people out and light it up. I'll handle the rest. After a tense pause, the voice on the other end reluctantly agreed. Within minutes, an explosion echoed from Zone 6, reverberating through the city like thunder. The predators, attracted by the noise, redirected their attention, their primal instincts compelling them to investigate. With the creatures now in pursuit, Sam set off toward the power plant, every step calculated and precise. As he neared his destination, he allowed himself a grim smile. It was a dangerous gambit, but if he could lure the creatures inside and activate the containment protocol, he might just trap them within a radioactive cage. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. Humanity's survival depended on his success, and Sam knew that the slightest mistake would mean his death, and the end of Earth as they knew it. As he reached the plant, he steeled himself for what lay ahead. This was it, the ultimate test, not just of his skills, but of humanity's right to exist on its own terms. And as the first shadow of a predator fell across the entrance, he prepared to face them head-on, determined to bring an end to this intergalactic nightmare. The silence inside the abandoned power plant was as thick as the darkness that clung to its corroded walls. The old facility loomed like a graveyard, filled with dormant machinery and leaking pipes that hadn't seen life in decades. Dust floated through the air, caught in the dim, flickering emergency lights that hadn't completely burned out. Sam Blackwell was alone, waiting for the predators to enter his carefully crafted trap. The entire plan was on a razor's edge of success and catastrophic failure. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, knowing that there would be no second chances. Through the broken windows and collapsed doorways, the predators slinked forward, their glowing eyes scanning the area with cold intelligence. They moved with cautious steps, aware that something was different about this place. The plant's faint radioactive haze was noticeable even to their alien senses, but it didn't deter them entirely. To them, Sam was the prize, the last human standing between them and total domination of the planet. Sam had studied their every move in the hours he'd spent observing them. He knew they favored ambushes, stealth tactics, and coordination, traits that had made them nearly unbeatable against the best human forces. But here, on his own turf and with his own tactics, Sam had one advantage: they didn't fully understand human ingenuity. Not yet, at least. And he was determined to exploit that to the fullest. With his back against a reinforced wall, Sam tapped his wrist communicator, activating a series of cameras he had positioned around the plant. On a small holographic display, he watched as the predators prowled through the maze of machinery, sniffing the air and pausing occasionally to assess their surroundings. They were cautious, but their confidence was evident in their fluid, almost graceful movements. Sam knew they hadn't encountered anything on Earth capable of challenging them. He whispered to himself, well, today's going to be a little different. From his hiding place, Sam triggered the first trap. A low-frequency sonic emitter sprang to life, emitting a series of disorienting sounds that bounced off the plant's metal walls. The predators froze, their heads snapping toward the noise with a look of confusion. They staggered momentarily, their senses thrown off balance by the unfamiliar sound. It was a small distraction, but it bought Sam the time he needed. He slipped away from his hiding place, moving through a concealed maintenance tunnel that ran parallel to the plant's main floor. Every few feet, he had placed small motion sensors and silent alarms to track the creature's movements. He checked his map one last time. The plan was simple but dangerous: guide the creatures into the plant's central reactor chamber, where he could seal them inside and initiate a temporary containment protocol. The radiation levels in the chamber would weaken them, giving him a chance to finish them off. But as he moved, he felt a ripple of unease. These creatures were adapting so quickly, almost anticipating his moves. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were already one step ahead of him, learning from every failed attempt to trap them. He didn't have to wait long for confirmation. Just as he reached the doorway to the central reactor, one of the predators, larger and more menacing than the rest, leaped down from an overhead pipe, landing mere feet away. Sam's instincts kicked in, and he rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the creature's razor-sharp claws. The alien's eyes fixed on him, gleaming with a mixture of intelligence and raw hunger. Sam scrambled to his feet, keeping his eyes locked on the predator. He pulled out a small device, a flash grenade modified with a unique chemical agent he had designed specifically for this mission. Without hesitating, he threw it at the creature's feet. The grenade detonated in a burst of light and mist, filling the air with a thick cloud that immediately affected the alien's senses. The creature reeled back, its eyes watering and its movements disoriented. Taking advantage of its momentary vulnerability, Sam sprinted toward the central reactor chamber, hoping the other predators hadn't figured out his plan yet. But as he reached the chamber, his heart sank. 2 more predators blocked the entrance, their eyes fixed on him with a chilling intelligence. They had anticipated his movements, positioning themselves to cut off his escape. He was trapped. Sam took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had come too far to let these creatures win. With a quick movement, he pulled out a remote detonator from his belt, linked to the explosives he had planted throughout the plant's perimeter. If he could create enough of a blast, he might disrupt their formation, giving him an opening. "All right, you alien freaks," he muttered, pressing the button. The ground shook as explosions erupted around the plant, filling the air with dust and debris. The shockwave momentarily disoriented the predators, and Sam used the opportunity to dive between them, rolling into the central chamber and sealing the heavy metal door behind him. He was now inside the reactor room, a vast, hollow space filled with aging machinery and pulsating with a faint radioactive glow. But his moment of relief was short-lived. The predators, relentless and enraged, clawed at the door, their strength gradually warping the metal. It was only a matter of time before they broke through. Sam took a deep breath, knowing he had only one option left. In the center of the room was the reactor control panel, a relic of Earth's early nuclear power days. If he could overload the system, he could generate a temporary radiation burst strong enough to disorient the creatures. It was a risky maneuver, too much radiation, and he wouldn't survive either. But at this point, he had no choice. Working quickly, he accessed the control panel, bypassing the outdated security protocols with a series of codes he had memorized during his recon. As he input the final command, he could feel the reactor hum to life, its energy levels rising rapidly. Just then, the door gave way, and the predators poured into the room. Their eyes locked onto him, their bodies tense, ready to strike. Sam stood his ground, his hand hovering over the final switch. "Come on," he whispered, his voice steady despite the fear pulsing through him. "Let's finish this." The lead predator, the largest of the group, let out a low, guttural growl, signaling the others to spread out and encircle him. They moved with deadly precision, closing the distance inch by inch. Sam waited, every muscle in his body coiled like a spring, his finger hovering over the switch. When they were within striking distance, he flipped the switch. The reactor roared to life, flooding the chamber with a blinding pulse of radiation. The predators howled in agony as the burst hit them, their bodies writhing in pain. Their exoskeletons, designed for resilience, cracked under the intense pressure, their metallic sheen dimming as they staggered, weakened for the first time. But Sam wasn't safe yet. The radiation pulse was affecting him too, his vision blurring and his body weakening with each passing second. He forced himself to stay conscious, focusing on his training and sheer willpower. This was his chance, the only chance he'd get. With the last of his strength, he drew his weapon and advanced on the lead predator, the one that had caused the most destruction. Its once brilliant eyes were now clouded with pain, its movement sluggish. Summoning every ounce of his remaining energy, Sam aimed for the creature's head, squeezing the trigger with cold precision. The shot rang out, echoing through the reactor chamber, and the alien predator collapsed, lifeless. The others, now leaderless and disoriented, faltered, their resolve breaking. Sam wasted no time, dispatching each one with ruthless efficiency until the room fell silent once more. As the radiation subsided, Sam stumbled back, his vision swimming. He leaned against the control panel, his body drained, his mind barely clinging to consciousness. The air was thick with the scent of burned metal and alien blood. He had won, but the cost was high. Moments later, a faint voice crackled through his communicator. Blackwell, are you there? Did you make it? He managed a weak smile, pressing the communicator. It's done. The creatures are gone. Earth is safe. For now. There was a pause on the other end before the voice replied, filled with relief and disbelief. Thank you, Blackwell. You've saved us all. But as Sam looked around at the carnage, he knew the threat wasn't entirely over. The Galactic Council would notice their failure. And if they had sent these predators as a test, it was only a matter of time before they tried again, perhaps with something even more dangerous. As the exhaustion finally overtook him, he sank to the floor, his body collapsing under the weight of his ordeal. The last thought that crossed his mind before darkness claimed him was a fierce, defiant determination. He'd won this battle, but he knew the war had only just begun. And as long as he was alive, he would be ready for whatever came next. Sam awoke to the dull hum of medical machines and the sterile smell of antiseptics. His entire body ached and his head throbbed as if he'd been hit by a freight train. Slowly, he opened his eyes, squinting against the harsh fluorescent lights. A nurse hovered nearby, adjusting an full line attached to his arm, her face a mixture of relief and surprise when she noticed he was awake. "Welcome back," she said with a warm, tired smile. "You gave us quite a scare." Sam tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his side forced him back down. He gritted his teeth, letting the soreness settle before he spoke. "How long was I out?" "A little over a week. You were severely dehydrated and suffering from radiation exposure. If it wasn't for your emergency beacon, we might not have found you in time," she explained, her voice filled with sympathy. Sam processed this, feeling the weight of everything he'd been through settle heavily on his shoulders. Memories of the predators, the battle in the reactor chamber, and the desperate final moments all rushed back, bringing a grim reminder of how close humanity had come to the brink. A government official entered the room, his face serious but respectful. He looked at Sam with a mixture of admiration and trepidation. "Blackwell," he greeted him with a nod. "The world owes you a debt we can never repay. You stopped the predators, saved countless lives, and proved that humanity isn't as weak as the Council believes." Sam's eyes darkened. "For now. But this isn't over, is it? The Council sent those creatures to test us, and now they know we can fight back. What happens when they send something worse?" The official hesitated, then sighed. "You're right. This incident was a warning, a display of power. But there's also something you need to know. We managed to intercept a message sent from the Council shortly after the predators were defeated. They were surprised. Intrigued, even. It seems they expected us to fail without resistance. Your victory has made them reconsider Earth's place in the galaxy." Sam frowned. "What does that mean?" The official leaned in, his expression tense. "It means we have a chance. You've shown them that humans aren't an easy target, that we can fight back. The Council is re-evaluating its stance on Earth. They might open negotiations or at least delay further attacks. But that won't last forever. We need to prepare, build defenses, develop our technology. And we need people like you to lead those efforts." Sam considered this, feeling a renewed sense of purpose settle in his chest. He hadn't just saved the world, he had given humanity a fighting chance. But he knew this was only the beginning. The Council's attention was now firmly fixed on Earth, and he doubted they would leave without testing humanity's resilience again. Over the following months, Earth's leaders worked in secret to fortify their defenses, using the data Sam had gathered on the predators to develop new technologies and combat strategies. Advanced research facilities were established, focusing on weaponry, defenses, and artificial intelligence to counter future alien threats. Sam became an advisor, training elite teams, sharing his insights, and working tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable. However, as time passed, he also began to notice changes within himself. The radiation exposure from the reactor had left him with strange, fleeting sensations, a sharper perception, an inexplicable intuition that helped him anticipate threats before they materialized. At first, he dismissed it as a residual effect of his trauma, but the feeling grew stronger over time. Then, one night, as he was analyzing alien pheromone patterns in a secured lab, he felt it, a subtle, tingling awareness in the back of his mind. He turned and saw nothing, but the sensation remained, an almost psychic recognition that something was watching, waiting. It was as if he could sense the aliens even from a distance, an awareness he couldn't quite explain but knew was real. He realized, with both a sense of awe and dread, that his exposure to the alien pheromones and the reactor's radiation had left him changed. The experience had altered his biology in ways science couldn't yet explain. It was as if he had gained a faint link to the predators, a connection he could tap into. This discovery transformed him from a lone operative into something more, a sentinel for humanity. He used this strange gift to detect alien signals, leading preemptive strikes against smaller incursions, and keeping humanity one step ahead in the battle for survival. The Galactic Council, meanwhile, observed Earth's advancements with cautious curiosity. Word of humanity's defiance spread across the galaxy, igniting debates among the Council's members. Some argued that humans were a dangerous anomaly, a species that might disrupt the cosmic order. Others believed that humans possessed a rare resilience that could benefit the galaxy, that their spirit was worth understanding, even preserving. In a grand session, the Council deliberated humanity's fate. The vote was contentious, but ultimately, they decided on a course of action, one that combined caution with curiosity. Instead of sending more predators, they would open diplomatic channels, offering Earth a place within the galactic community. But it came with a catch: humans would have to prove their worth, demonstrating their intelligence, adaptability, and loyalty to the Council's laws. Back on Earth, Sam received the news with mixed emotions. The Council's offer was both a relief and a challenge. Accepting it meant stepping into a universe that was as dangerous as it was vast. But it also meant a chance to prevent further invasions, to build alliances, and to ensure Earth's survival on its own terms. The following year was one of rapid change. Humanity embraced its role as a fledgling member of the galactic community, sending diplomats, scientists, and explorers into the stars. Sam, now Earth's first galactic guardian, became a symbol of hope and resilience, a figure whose name echoed throughout the galaxy. His story inspired others to rise, to believe that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could endure and thrive. But Sam never lost his edge. He continued his training, his vigilant watch over Earth, and his commitment to ensuring humanity's safety. The predators might have been defeated, and the Council's stance might have softened, but he knew better than to let his guard down. One evening, as he stood on a high cliff overlooking the city he had once saved, he felt that familiar awareness in the back of his mind, the faint, otherworldly sensation that had haunted him since the battle in the reactor chamber. This time, however, it wasn't a warning. It was a sense of connection, a reminder of what he had fought for. With a determined gaze, he looked up at the stars, knowing that humanity's journey was only beginning. And as long as he had breath, he would be ready to face whatever lay ahead. The Galactic Council might have unleashed its predators, but Earth had called upon its own, a defender who would protect it against any threat, no matter how powerful, no matter how alien. In the quiet of that night, Sam Blackwell made a silent vow to the cosmos: humanity would not be extinguished. They would not be controlled. They would endure and rise, no matter what. And as the stars twinkled above, as if in acknowledgement, Sam smiled.